For sustainable technology and sustainable agriculture, a good quality seed is the most basic and essential input, as we all know. So, a fundamental role in meeting the triple challenges for improving food security and nutrition, supporting the livelihood of farmer and the rural communities, and contributing to sustainable resources, maybe use of climate change also. That can enhance the role of modern technologies also in agriculture. So the seed sector directly influences three dimensions of food security and nutrition, like food availability, access, and stability, as it will be more explained by our speaker. So, a brief introduction about Mukesh sir. He has around 14 years of vast experience in agri input industry. So, as we can see, he is like most dynamic, energetic a person with vast experience. And if I list the experience of Mukesh sir, he has worked with Syngenta, most reputed MNC throughout the world, and Monsanto also. So, Mukesh sir, without wasting any time, I hand over the platform to you and kindly start your introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Garima, and thanks for giving me opportunity here. And first of all, it's a pleasure to talk to young people, those who are going to contribute in the food security in future. And it's always happy to share our thoughts, what the industry see as a future for these agriculture graduates and scientists or technocrats. So let me take you through the presentation. Although it's like a big topic we cannot cover in 30 minutes. I tried to pull some of the information in a presentation form. We will try to touch some of the key points here. But as you know, it's a very vast topic, and it will need months of debate, discussion, and work to come on the conclusion that how we can go forward. But we will touch on the seed industry as a main, because as you know, the green revolution is one of the thing which have saved billions of people for dying in during the first green revolution time, and Norman Borlaug, who has got the Nobel Prize for his work. So you can see the importance of seed industry here. Please share the presentation and let me take you through. So I will have a three part of in my presentation. First will be we will see how the current situation look like and how the future for the food security look like. And second will be we will talk about the solution, what could be there. And the third will be the opportunities for the agriculture graduates and technocrats, those who want to service in this industry. So maybe better I will share my presentation here. Okay, let me handle this. Okay, please close. I will share my window. That will be better.
Raman ma'am, please put this off. Sir is going to share his own.
Just give me a few seconds. I will share my presentation. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So I hope you can see it now.
Yes, sir, we can see this.
Okay, great. So let's talk about the first situation, what and where we are now. So if you see the if we talk the current situation, and by 2050, so 2/3 of the world population is going to live in the urban area, and the 95% of this population growth is coming from the developing world, which is again a big challenge, and the 80% of the food coming from the domestic source, which is our rural areas. So this 60 to 80% of our household, as you said, is the backbone of the like economy. So 60 to 80% of the household, they have their income from the food. So if you go to the another situation here, so out of these 7 billion people, close to 7 billion people, 2 billion people are having a moderate to severe food security, where 750 million people are having a severe food security issue. So close to 3 billion people are really starving, and there's a big challenge because the population is continuously growing, and most of this population is coming either from Asia Pacific or from the sub-Saharan Africa, where we have like these are all the developing countries, and we have a lot of pressure going on our resources, current resources, and our population is increasing like anything. So let me take you to the another situation here. So can our mother earth feed 90 billion people in 2050? So this is the big question. So question is like right now, if we see per person, we have only 0.2 hectare of land available. But is this sufficient to grow the food for 9 billion people? The big question here. So even we are talking about 2050, but if you go to 21, like this 22nd century, so it is going to be a 10 plus billion people on this earth. Can we provide the food to, not only food, the nutrition, the food to these all people is going to be a big challenge. Uh, as you see, like during the COVID period, they see the recent experience in front of all of us. So the two things which has a most priority in human life is food and medicine. So without which is not possible to live on in this earth now under this current situation. So not only the population, but if you see the entrenchment in the cultivation land, cultivated area, so due to the urbanization, the lot of construction going around, and there it is happening on the cultivated land, particularly in the developing area, which is further increasing this challenge to per hectare availability for the human life. So there are a lot of biotic and abiotic stresses all around. So a lot of crops, they are going under a tremendous pressure of disease. Like there's a recent example of the fall armyworm, which has almost depleted the 40% of the corn production, and a lot of countries, they have faced the severe losses in their production. And again, the unstable ROIs, like return on of investment in the agriculture, is a big issue. Because of that, a lot of people, they are not interested in agriculture now. They are moving to the urban area to find the better jobs, better income opportunities. So that again, increasing the population in urban area, and again the food is coming from the rural area. So we see a lot of post-harvest losses happening. You might have seen a lot of picture in social media also, like Facebook and all, how the grains are rotting in the mandis and all. And there's a complete lack of food supply chain, like mostly in the developing countries. I'm not talking here about the developed countries. They might be in a better situation here, but we have a lack of supply chain. And during this, it's estimated that we lose our 30 to 35% of the food here. Again, the climatic challenges, lot of things are happening around the world. This flood, then there is a fire, and also the CO2 is increasing, the global warming. These all are putting pressure on the agriculture and depleting soil quality, because more and more production are expected per hectare. So we are using a lot of synthetic fertilizers also, which is again harming our soil quality, which in future is going to have a big impact on producibility of the soil. In Asia Pacific and Africa, if you see, we have a lot of smallholders here. Smallholders mean like they have a very small piece of land. Compare if you go to the US and Africa, where and EME Europe, where they have a big land holdings and more organized agriculture sector, and it's easy to adopt technology, and it is easy for the private sector or government sector, those who develop this technology, take to them and they can easily adapt. But for smallholders, because we have millions of farmers, it's very difficult to take those technology to them and ask them to adapt. And again, it's a big challenge. But this is the scope for the agriculture students also, that I will take it later on. So there is a lot of labor shortages across people, because people are moving for a better payout in the urban areas, again, which is putting pressure in agriculture sector. Then purchase power, as we know, there is a lot of disparity in the income gap of the rich people and the people who live in the bottom of the pyramid. Like it is again, the gap is widening. The rich people they are becoming ultra rich, and the poor people, like at the bottom of the pyramid, the base is increasing. The lot of more people are going to add in those parameters. So it's a big challenge for all of us to how we can provide the food security to the people, those who are living at the bottom of the pyramid. Maybe for ultra rich people, it is easy and more accessible to get healthy food. And then there are a lot of other challenges like pandemic. During the COVID situation, if you see, so as roughly estimated, there are more than 200 million people, those who are under the at the verge of getting malnutrition, or maybe lacking of food, availability of the food. They don't have jobs, they don't have the purchase power with them. Then there are a lot of war happening across many regions. There are political instabilities. So all these contribute to the availability of the food to the masses. uh, Let me take you to the second part of this presentation. If you have any question, please feel free to interrupt and ask questions. So it's okay. We will make it more of a interactions
Yes, sir. I'll be
session.
asking that in the end. You please continue.
Okay, sure, that's fine. Okay, so let's talk about the today's topic, which is the importance of the seed in providing the food security. If you see the healthy eating tips from the WHO, so it should have a 50% of fruits and vegetables, 25% of protein-rich foods, and 25% of the rich high carbohydrates. But as of today, like, it's very difficult to get these fruits and vegetables to the base of the pyramid, which I talked, because the cost is really high. But we need to make sure that everybody in the on the earth who are living get the accessibility to the those things. In food security, seed is maybe a very small portion here, but a significant impact with a significant impact. If you see all those like fair trade, financing, apply good working conditions, sustainable sourcing, farm management, all are the associated with the quality of seed. So if we need to increase our food production, we need to have a good seed. Green Revolution 2 is much required if we need to really feed the 9 billion people in 2050. So again, we need to get into that mode where the per hectare production should be almost 30-40%. We should have a higher production now. Then we can save our 30-40% of the losses during our this post-harvest handling. As estimated, the increase of food demand will be 70% by 2050. So if we need to meet those targets, we need to definitely increase our production. But also along with that, we need to improve our supply chain. We need to make sure that every people on this earth have food on their plate with better nutrition. So way forward, how we see this word, like there's a lot of buzzword like GMO, GM crops and all. But let's talk here about the biotech crops. So these are the information, which is all the information which I'm sharing here is most of the information available in the public domain. You can go and browse through Google, it's easily available. So if you see the role of biotech crops, so 70 million farmers, they are getting benefited as of now. So which has like, every farmer, if you say they have a four per person in their family, so say that 65 million people are getting benefited with the biotech crop. Again, the role of the agriculture people, like the student from the agriculture science, the scientist and all, have a major role to play here. So it's not only that the farmer are getting a higher income, their livelihood is also getting better here. So it is estimated that in 2020, roughly 2 million hectare is under biotech crop now. Although mostly it is like cotton, soya bean, and all big crops, not fruits and vegetables. But in future, there is an option that we will need to move on a GMO crops in vegetables also if we need to improve our production. So that topic is a debatable, but in future we need to see the opportunity of this science to feed the people. So see how it can become a center of attraction here, or center of the topic, because if we have to increase the production, we need a high yielding varieties. So which has happened in during the green revolution one, when they launched a new dwarf wheat variety with the higher production, and they saved almost 1 billion people for starving. Now we need a similar kind of thing again, but we are about to exploit the potential of genetic potential of the current varieties at the best. But in future we need a varieties which show higher yield, like 12 to 15% on a decade basis. Like in this particular decade, if some variety is producing 100 kg, so we need a variety which produce 120 kg or something around that. So for that, we also need a variety which are more tolerant to biotic and abiotic stresses. In biotic, like there are a lot of disease and pest, and in abiotic stresses, like if the drought and all. So we need a varieties which are more adaptable. We can grow in a stressed condition also. Water is again as a big challenge for us. We need a lot of. We see the lot of like agriculture countries, they have a shortage of water, and the ground level of water is also reducing day by day, year by year. There are big challenges. So we need a variety which we can grow with a very low water usage. Then we need again the varieties, or the grains with a better shelf life, better storability, so which can again solve some of the problem during the post harvest losses. So we need to make sure that the variety which we develop require low input, so that there will be better ROI for the growers or the farmer, so that their interest will remain in agriculture. We need to definitely look for sustainable agriculture approach. Lot of the companies, lot of the organization, they are working on this part, how we can keep continue to get better yield, and not exploiting the resources, and not like harming the particularly the soil health. So this is also again a big thing. A lot of things are happening around it. A lot many companies like Bayer, Syngenta, they are working on the sustainable agriculture. In every like meeting, or every strategic meeting, everybody talk about a sustainable agriculture. And again, the agriculture students, they are going to play a big role here as a technocrat, and develop the new technology, how we can further explore this. So it's not only that we need to have a high yielding variety, because during when we target for high yielding, there is a we need to compromise on some other part, maybe the nutritional part also. But now people are looking for the varieties which have a very high nutritional value, so that with minimum intake you can get a maximum nutritional value. So you can see a lot of picture here with the orange cauliflower, with the green one, with the purple one, the tomato with the also all black tomato. The golden rice, you might have heard recently, is very high in beta carotene. So a lot of things are happening there, and many companies and organizations, they are working to improve the nutritional value of the crops. If you see, the new concept is beyond meat. How people, like most of the people see after this, the social media revolution, many people see as a this meat industry as a very bad industry, but most 90% of our protein requirement is coming from the meat. But in future, there are a lot of things happening around here, because a lot of people, they are moving from either they're completely becoming vegan, or they are moving from totally meat to partially eating some uh, meat. But we need a backup plan for that. So a lot of things are happening. We are working, a lot of companies, they are working on a protein rich soybean, protein rich ultra protein, you can say pea varieties, ultra protein soybean varieties. There's a company in US, they have recently launched a variety which has a very soybean variety, which has a very high protein content. So we need a variety which has a higher fiber, in the their constitute, which with the high fiber. So all these things will definitely help us, improving the availability of the food to each and everyone, maybe most of the population, with a high nutritional value. And each of the point which I mentioned here, the agriculture graduates or the students, and they are going to play a big role here. So coming to the opportunity part, if you see as a seed as an industry, so it's close to $63 billion industry, and it is going to be the expected growth is 6.6 at a CAGR rate, and it is going to be 86.8 billion in 2026. So it's a big opportunity. Like many big companies, they have a very huge focus on the seed now, because a lot of people, they are considering the healthy food now, safe food and healthy food. So a lot of companies, they have a very high focus on the seed part. So APEC and Africa, they are going to be a next growth engine, because as I mentioned in the previous slides, most of the population growth which is expected is coming from these regions, and we also have a lot of people, those who are having insufficient food supply. So every company, they are seeing a big opportunity here, and they are investing. Like all Bayer, BASF, Syngenta, Corteva, all big MNCs, they are investing in APEC, and a lot of projects are coming, both in research and development, and also on a technological part, like how we can take this technology to the farm level. So there is a small holder. We need many people to service. Again, it's a big opportunity for people like us. On an innovation part, definitely it's not only that this high yielding variety is going to be the ultimate solution, but we need a lot of other innovative things. So there are a lot of startups, they are coming in very with the innovative technologies, like now you can have a real-time data available, weather data available, so which can help farmer to plant their crop in advance. And also you can get a real-time market data, that what is happening in the market, which variety or which crop is getting what price. So all those things, there are drone technology, many things are happening on innovation front also. One thing is that whatever you innovate or develop, but you need to have that linkage between the farmer and the technology. So we need a lot of people to train those farmers. It is easier to implement those technologies in Europe and US, where you have a lot less less farmer and big land holding. But in Asia and Africa, again, it is going to be a big challenge, because most of the people, either like farmer, either they are very illiterate or poor, or maybe they don't have access to the resources. Although the situation is improving, but still it's a big challenge. Precision farming, again, is a part of innovation, which I mentioned above. So new thing is the digital approach. So you must have seen, this is the buzzword, that let's go digital. So a lot of things are happening around this space also. The conventional way is not going to solve our problem. We need to have a digital approach also. So a lot of the companies, many companies, they are investing in this technology. So you can see a lot of Facebook pages now, where they have a live training session for the farmers. Now you can have have a live interaction with any like techno commercial person, or you have a reach to any person, technical person in the companies or the organization. Even ICR, our government institute, which has they have a lot of this digital platform or digital apps which are accessible to the farmer. They can go there and register their problem. They will get help immediately. So all these things combined together is going to provide a big opportunity for the techno commercial people, like those who have having a agriculture degree, having a like a breeding degree, having your diploma, or all those people are going to get engaged in these activities. So it's a big opportunity. I am presenting all the seed part, but it's, if you see, it's a whole agri input industry is a very big, and there's a scope for these people in every part of that industry. And one thing which I really would like to share here is that even during this pandemic situation, when a lot of people have lost their jobs, and it's very difficult to survive, or either they have to work on the half pay, like that kind of situation is happening. But this is the industry which is really stable industry. I have seen continuous hiring going on, and there is maybe minimum job losses happening around this industry. So the job is quite stable, but you need to be very agile, very active, very innovative, and also hardworking, because this job is not a kind of banking job, or maybe like the office job. You need to really go into the field, make your shoes dirty, and connect with the farmer, interact with them, help them, support them. So these all things are going to be really important for going forward for the graduates. So a job is that which give you a sense of purpose. Why I am saying this? Because see, if you are in a job where you are going to feed the 9 billion people, and you are going to save the people from starving or getting malnutrition, so all these things are definitely going to give you a sense of purpose, that at least you are contributing back to the society. So it's not about earning also, it's about like how you contribute back to the society. So in this field, if you see, they are broadly, they categorize it in the three phases. One is the before the farm, where you develop, like in R&D basically happen like before the farm. So a lot of trades and these things are happening. Traditional breeding are going on. Now companies and this institution, they are moving to the molecular breeding, where they can fastly bring those variety to the market or to the grower. And technological development and solution is not only seed, the complete solution approach is there. And linkage between the research and the farmer is going to be very critical, because you can develop a technology, but if technology sit in your lab, then what is the meaning of having that technology? So it's very important that we have a linkage between the farmer and the technology which is available. So the graduate, like agriculture people, techno commercial people, we call ourselves. So we are going to be play a very vital role here, because we have a technological skills, and we can also understand the farmer closely, because due to our expertise in this area. So on the farm, like when the technology is available, so we need to take this technology to the farmer, then educate the farmer, uh, not only adopting that technology, but also during the full crop cycle, we need to interact with them, guide them, coach them, and how they can reap the benefit of those technologies. And now beyond the farm, when the food this production is available, how we can support the farmer with the real-time market data. This is just some of the point which I'm mentioning here. The entire value chain, how we can support the farmer to enter this market and get more benefit for their produce. So all these things, like many like multinational companies or regional companies or local companies, they are now focusing on this value chain also. So we need a people also to service in this part, not only on the farm or before the farm, but beyond the farm also. So this is the new approach, and you see many people working in those areas also. So let's go to the some of the companies, those who are really have a big focus and high focus in agriculture as well as in the seed. So I have tried to list it some of the companies there, although these are some of the big companies like, but there are a lot of regional company MNCs, but there are a lot of small companies, regional companies, those who have a very strong role to play. They are very strong in their niche market and in their crops. I could not mention here, but there's a list of some of the companies, those who are widely known, and they have a very big footprint in this industry. So you can go through this slide later on. Maybe I can call out some of the name like Bayer, BASF, Syngenta, Corteva. UPL is a like Indian company, is a MNC, Indian MNC. It's almost number 5 in the world, and you can see a lot of like US companies, but good to see that there are a lot of Indian companies also here. And apart from this, there's opportunity in new startups. A lot of new startups are like going around in agriculture space also, not only in seed sector, but in agri input industry and beyond that input industry also. A lot of companies are coming. If you see in Singapore, many companies, they are working on how we can help and support farmer to get like maximum out of their field, and how there are a lot of companies, those who are specialized in taking the technology to the farm. So a lot of things are happening at that space also. So we have a very many people, those who have a independent breeding companies. They have their own breeding companies, like those are agriculture graduates or postgraduates, those who have a strong breeding acumen. They have their own breeding companies now, and they are also playing a very important role in niche market and in some of the crops. So there is a new word, agripreneur. Now people should not think only about getting a salary paid job, but they should become a agripreneur also, start up their own business. They can establish their own farm, they can become an innovative farmer. During my service experience, I have met many growers, those who have become a very big now, very innovative. Now they, even some of them were the professor in agriculture universities, now moving forward. They are a big grower, and they have a very good income from that also. And there are apart from that, there are a lot of institute. I could mention a few here, like CMIT, AVRDC, IIHR, ICR, agriculture universities. Those all institute, they are doing a really tremendous job in improving the variety yield, and also taking this technology to the farmer. And these all are the big source for the job, as a job industry for the agriculture students. So there are a lot of companies, they are offering the scholarship for the student. If they want to participate, they can go to their website and log in there and check what are the scholarships available. There are a lot of these MNCs, they are supporting the startup business. They invite their ideas, your ideas, and you can present your idea. If they like, they are ready to invest in those ideas. So all these things are going to be giving a big platform for the upcoming graduates or postgraduate agriculture students. And not only in India or APEC, I have many known people, those who are working in US, Europe, and they are doing a tremendous job and fantastic job there, being an Indian or maybe from any country. So it's a kind of open market now. If you have a capability, if you have interest, the world will welcome you. Although maybe you need to have a more agile, more innovative, if you want to enter this industry, because it's not there's a whole lot of technological shift happening. And now you can see the transformation from only the local companies, they are becoming a big companies, and they even our Indian companies, they are becoming a very big companies. So they are also having this multinational kind of approach. So people need to be more agile, more adjustable, more innovative, and world is yours. So I think I close my presentation here. Thanks for providing me that opportunity. Now we can go ahead with the Q&A session.
Yeah. Thank you, Mukesh sir. That was really, really knowledgeable, and even I could get an idea of how vast the career opportunity can be in the seed sector itself. And thank you for that effort. And yeah, although you have answered all the queries, but still that would be a repetition for us. But I want to ask you again, like on behalf of students, like what are the career opportunities for both sector, government as well as private, for agriculture graduates?
Okay. So as you know, I show you the list of the company. This is just the extract of the few companies, those who are working, but there are a lot of NGOs, lot of other MNCs, those who are working. So it's a very big industry. As I said, only seed is close to $63 billion industry. So you can see a lot of things are available there. You can go in a research and development, you can go in the techno commercial part, you can go into the value chain, as I said. So there's a lot of opportunities available. Only thing is that you need to break your mindset that we should not only go to the government sector or stick to the some one sector. You should be open, you should, as I said, you should be agile, you should be ready to take the risk. Then what is there? There are a lot of opportunities in every field. And even many of my friends, they are working as a breeder in California, they are working in a breeder in a Thailand. So it's a big, and a lot of investment is are going to happen in APEC specifically. Like it's going to be a highest growth market in coming decade. So lot many MNCs, they have like their major focus on investment is going to be APEC. So if investment is happening, definitely there are a lot of opportunities are coming.
Okay, thank you. One more question, which is more relevant for this era. Like, what impact has the COVID-19 done on seed technology? As we know that pharma and nursing sectors, they are getting highlighted day by day, that the job opportunities are more in those sectors. So, what about agriculture sector?
See, as I mentioned to you before also, my experience is that, not my experience, those who all are working in the agri industry, I think at this time is the most secure industry to work, because you cannot survive without food. And there is we call them as a frontline warrior also, those who are working closely to the farmer and making sure that every farmer get the supply of the seed on the time, they get the services in term of if they need any help of technological side, and make sure that the farmer, they also get their produce sold in the market at better price. So even in our companies, if we see the supply chain, they are working day and night to make sure that these things happen. And there will be no impact on the food, shortage of food because of the non availability of the seed in the market. And as I mentioned, this is the industry which has continuously seen the growth in this time also. Although certain countries, some countries may be exceptional, but most of the countries, they are growing, most of the industry is growing. And I continuously see the recruitment happening in this industry. A lot of companies, they are posting on LinkedIn or maybe their website, the opportunities are available, which is, if you go to the hotel industry or maybe some other part where they are facing a big challenges, even aviation industry, if you see,